is going. Think about the ways in which, these last 2 years almost have really changed subtly, slowly and subtly changed your sense of socialization. So close your eyes for a moment and think about, of course, there's a lot of great things about having a meeting on Zoom instead of a meeting in person. Saves you time, saves you gas money. You get to stay in your pajamas while you're in a meeting, or whatever the good things are that we have found. Let's also sit here with our eyes closed for a moment and try to remember what we have lost. We have so slowly transitioned to a new way of living, quickly in the beginning, but really, I wonder if we all recognize what has been lost. So close your eyes and remember the last in-person yoga class you took. For one of you in here, it was yesterday, but for the rest of you, it's been a while. So, or at least with me, it's been a while. So just try to remember what it feels like to be in a yoga studio or a yoga room, a space where you're sharing your practice with other people. Try to remember what the energy felt like. And just notice, acknowledge something that's missing. Okay, just something that's missing in our now digital lives, that we've become, people on a screen instead of people in presence, physical presence. And then move that beyond just your yoga practice, which is only one little tiny part of your life, but all the ways in which your relationships have shifted. And this is not to say that it's bad. Perhaps your priorities have really changed, where you're not overextending yourself socially or whatever that is. But let's just acknowledge what has been lost. Do you see the people you love as often as you would like to see them? When you get an invitation to be somewhere, are you less likely to accept? Have you pulled away emotionally in any way from your relationships? Have you become more shy? Have you become more content to just be alone? Are you less interested in, just all the ways in which we socialize with each other? So of course, there's some goodness in here, letting go of relationships that don't work, learning to say no when you're overcommitted. These are really beautiful things. But let's just acknowledge for a moment what has shifted in the way we are as humans together. And let's hold gratitude for, think of a recent experience where you've been in physical presence with someone you love, maybe somebody outside of who you live with, and the joy of being in presence, even if it was just passing a friend while taking a walk in the park and you had a conversation, or a dinner with someone you love, whatever it is. And let's just have a moment to bow into gratitude for the physical presence of our community, the people that we share our lives with, whether they're super close to us, like those we love, or just the people that we are in our web of our lives. Let's acknowledge the social nature of our human selves. Even if you're an introvert, we need each other. And as hopefully things shift with COVID, with the weather, with anything else that hinders you from being able to connect, let's walk into these connections with a deep sense of not taking people for granted. right, let that go and just create an intention for yourself, for your practice. Place your hands together, bow in. Let's release the hands and come onto our back. All right, so find your way into your practice, stretching your body. So enjoy these moments when we get to really commit to time on our mat, where we put the rest of our lives aside for a moment. Enjoy this space. So try to let yourself be here now instead of worrying about what's coming later. All right, so stretch your body, stretch one side, stretch the other side, or however you like to kind of wake yourself up into the day, into the capacity to open your body. And then bring your knees up to your chest and rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Just feel your head slosh as much as you feel the rest of you kind of rock to and fro. Okay, now let's take the knees and circle them one direction. Circle your knees different direction. Feel into your sacrum, like a little gentle massage across your sacrum. All right, let's open up the knees and bring them back toward the midline. Of course, feeling what this does for the movement and feeling in your pelvis, but also in your hip joints themselves. Just be very gentle, just noticing where you easily have movement and where maybe you get a little stuck. Okay, right knee hugging snug into the chest. While you do this, create length in your spine and see if you can move your femur bone toward the left foot. So the right femur bone kind of, I'm not saying that quite right, of the head of your femur bone. See if you can drop it away from the top of your pelvis. So it kind of draws back and down in the hip joints. Feel free to move your feet around. We're going to get into the hamstrings a little bit today, kind of open up the back body, do a little bit of forward bending. So just get used to, the feeling of your femur bones in the hip joints. All right, let's change sides. So bring your left knee into the chest and your right leg long on the floor. Feel free to keep moving your feet around. Let things wake up. I know, most of us wear shoes a good portion of the day, so take your feet for a stroll. All right, and then drop weight into your left knee. Have a good compression in the hip and the knee. See if you can move the hip down away from your shoulder. See if you can lengthen through the crown and just sense, where is my femur bone in my hip socket? Where is my pelvis in relation to space? Do you tend to lift one hip up? Do you rock over to one hip? Try to just sense how you like to bend into flexion. All right, and then release that hip and stretch your limbs out wide. Take a deep breath, wiggle your fingers and your toes, maybe roll your wrists and your ankles, open and close fists, whatever feels good. And then exhale and draw your knees in. Give a good squeeze. And let's try a couple more starfishes, spreading your body out. Exhale. Drawing your body in. One more time. Take your time with your breath. Fill yourself up. Empty yourself out. Put your head back down onto the ground. Take your feet wide on the mat. So feel the edges of your mat, maybe even your big toe is on the edge of the mat. So, your legs are pretty wide. And we're going to windshield wiper our knees left and right. So this is a little different than when we have our legs closer together. So just feel into the stretch across the top side of your pelvis, perhaps, right at the outside of your hip. Just kind of sense, see what feels good, what's happening here.
All right, and then we're going to pause on each side for just a moment. So drop knees left, open up the breath, stretch your right knee away from your right shoulder. So it's a little bit of a twist, but not super twisty in the spine. We're just kind of getting into the front side of the pelvis a little bit. And come back and drop the knees over to the right and stretch your left knee away from your left shoulder. Be really mindful. You know, you can even pick your right knee up off the ground a little bit more so that your low back is not getting too much of a twist. Just finding the front side of the hip. And then relax and melt. Grab your strap. If you don't have a strap, see if you have a scarf or something to grab around your foot. So first, 2 knees bent. Then we're going to draw the right knee in with your left foot still on the floor. Feel the extension of the spine. And then wrap that foot or strap around your foot and lift your leg straight up in the air. You're still having your left foot on the floor with your left knee bent. Drop your right hip down toward the earth and move your right femur bone back. So we're away from our shoulder. And then start to sense, okay, here you have, a stretch going on in your hamstring and your calf. Start to dole out a straight left leg in little increments. So don't just automatically stretch your left leg straight on the floor. Kind of walk your foot away from your hip and then walk your left foot a little further away. And then your heels on the ground and just kind of slowly slide it. And notice what's happening in the pelvis as you do this. And if your leg can go straight and you have a neutral pelvis, great. And if your leg can't and you need to keep your knee bent, that's awesome too. So try to pay attention to the impact of this stretch on your pelvis itself. Move your shoulders away from the ears. Feel the crown and the tail lengthen away from each other. Feel the right hip lengthen away from the shoulder. Walk the strap down the strap enough where your arms are relaxed, where you're not tugging or kind of getting any tension in your neck or shoulders. Nice and easy. And then while we're here, we're going to flex and point the toes. So you can go quickly or you can go slowly. Just feel the top of the foot stretch, the front of the shin stretch, and then feel the calf get a zing. And even see if you can stretch your toes apart and get the back of your leg to move into the stretch all the way through to the bottom of your foot. So just a little bit of back and forth. And then relax that. Take the strap into the right hand and we're going to open up the right leg out to the right. So we're going to hang out in some poses today and not move so fast. See what it feels like to be here. Now pay attention to remember that left leg. See what it might feel like to bend your left knee again and put your foot on the floor. And then let your left knee fall out to the left. And notice the weight the counterweight that gives to your pelvis. So you're not tipping over to the right. See, just let your leg go as far as it goes without a tug of war across your pelvis. Check in with your right knee. Make sure there's not tension or strain at the inner knee. You can bend your knee. All right, lift that leg straight up in the air. You can still have your left knee bent with your left foot on the floor, or you can straighten it, whatever feels good. Take the strap over to the left, hold it in the left, and we're going to cross the right leg over to the left side. Feel free to put the heel of your right hand in the hip crease and press away. And as you do that, feel the crown and tail move away from each other. And then notice what angle is your right femur bone naturally going to. Do you tend to externally rotate it in the hip joint? See if you can find neutral. So that might mean that your toes, your heel is facing the wall where your feet are, and your toes are facing the wall over your head instead of your toes up toward the sky a little bit. So just see if you can find that angle with your whole leg, not just your foot. So a little inner spiral of the thigh, move your femur bone away from your shoulder. And then come back up. And we're just going to take the strap off and we're going to come into half happy baby pose. So you can bend your left knee a lot, put your foot on the floor, so you can drop that right knee down and just feel some compression in the hip. And then straighten that right leg on the floor and put your two legs down and just notice the difference between your right and your left leg. Left leg, do you have the sensation that your right leg is longer? It's interesting how our perception of our body shifts as we open and loosen. Okay, let's switch sides. 2 feet onto the ground. Okay, bring your right knee into your chest. Give it a good squeeze. Then we're going to wrap the strap around your left foot and lift it up in the air. So have enough give on the strap where you're not tugging up with your shoulders. You're nice and loose and relaxed. When's the last time you took this much time to just rest in a hamstring stretch? So enjoy it. Enjoy, have some gratitude for still being on the floor and just being able to feel stretch in your body. Start to slowly move your right heel. You can come into a straight leg, or you can keep your foot flat on the ground with your knee bent, or anywhere in between. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Feel the crown and tail move away from each other. Spread across your hamstrings instead of just lengthening the knee to the sit bone. See if you can get broad, like spread out the hamstring wings. And then as you're ready, let's have a little bit of a flex and a point in this left foot. And you might find, like if you have an injury, I broke this foot a few months ago, and I still don't have the, full range of motion in my foot, and has, a little bit different sensation, a little bit different stability. So just notice if if one side feels different than another side. Feel free to hang out in one spot. Spread your toes. Relax your shoulders. All right, and then as you're ready, we're going to take the left hand on the strap and open the left leg out to the left. Now decide what you want your right leg to be doing. Would you like your knee to be bent and open up the right hip, let the knee fall out to the right? Would you like to keep your knee bent with your knee straight? Would you like to have your right leg on the floor? Would you like to have a little bend in your left knee, or is it more comfortable straight? Remember, whenever we're holding deep stretches, we want the belly of our muscles to feel the stretch. We don't want just our attachments to be feeling like they're being tugged upon. So pay close attention to the inner knee. Pay close attention to the sit bones. Breathe your way here. How can you expand? Imagine yourself in triangle pose. Open your body up. We're going to lift that leg straight up in the air. Take the strap into the right hand. We're going to cross the left leg over to the right. Your right knee can be bent still, or your right leg can be straight. You decide what feels good. Your left knee can be super straight. Your left knee can have a little bend in it. So just kind of sense where you want your joint to be, what feels comfortable, and follow into the hip. Move your left hip away from your shoulder, perhaps a little press of your femur bone right at the head with the heel of your left hand. And then once again, pay attention to your toes. Are they pointing up toward the sky? Can you internally rotate the thigh a little bit more if that's the case, so your toes are facing the wall above your head? Your heel is facing the wall at the bottom edge of your mat. Relax your neck. Discover your breathing. And then go ahead and lift that leg straight back up, strap off. Half happy baby pose on this side. Perhaps your right knee needs to bend now to have some ease across your pelvis. Just see what feels right. Lengthen your spine. Deep compression in the hip. And then open your legs out to a starfish. Expand yourself, wiggle your fingers and your toes, maybe rock your legs, internal and external rotation, and bring your knees into your chest and give yourself a hug. Last thing we'll do before we get up, 2 feet in the strap. Okay, so both legs up in the air. And if you want to, you can do the way of using your strap so you don't feel compressed in your inner feet. So you can have the strap across the bottom of your feet and then make another loop over top your foot, around the inside of your foot, over the back of your foot, and down on the outsides of your foot. See, this is kind of what I meant before, where if I could just show you that instead of talk you through it, it probably, actions speak louder than words sometimes. So if that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. Just stretch your legs up, root your femur bones down, heads of the thigh bones back. See what it might feel like. Do your knees need to be really bent for your back to be in a neutral spine? Can you straighten your legs and maybe move them a little further away from you? So just experiment. Notice your low back. Is it pressing into the ground, or do you have a feeling of a little slight gap underneath there where you're not compressing into a posterior tilt, a neutral spine? Thigh bones back, crown long, feet up, hips down. All right, take that strap off, knees to your chest, rocking a little bit. We've been on the ground a while. We're going to get up now. Spread your limbs. Exhale, knees in. Let's roll over onto our side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So what a luxury to just spend some time opening up your legs. It's never a waste of time to have some slow stretching. All right, let's move our way through some cat-cows now. So just start to orient yourself to be off the floor. Check in with the way you feel in your brain. Are you dizzy at all? Do you have any sense of lightheadedness? Just care for yourself as best as you need. And start to notice your back. Enjoy a deep arch, tailbone tipped up. Enjoy a deep round, spine lifting toward the sky. And feel free to move things around, move your pelvis. You might feel that opening up your hamstrings in that way was a little hard on your back. And if that's the case, pay attention to that. Our hamstrings and our low back are intimately connected to each other. So move things around and find your way into child's pose. Take your hips back toward the heels, relax your forehead toward the floor, walk the hands out in front of you. Notice your breath. What can be melted away? Drip something right out of the center of your third eye into the earth. Let go of something that's bothering you. If you could soften the chatter mind. Walk the hands over to the left, feeling the weight of your right sit bone drop down a bit. Big breath into the ribs. Take advantage to find deep breathing. And then come back the other side and inch over, breathing well. All right, come back to center and find dog pose. So my hope is that your dog pose feels a little different because we had so much work already with the backs of the legs that you maybe feel comfortable a little more quickly. Don't have the need to pedal so much or kind of find yourself. See if you're here already. Root to rise. So four corners of your hands grounding across the balls of your toes. Find that weight and then rise from that weight. So sink into the ground and then yield away. Relax your neck. Breathe well. Bend your knees a fair amount now, like a lot, so your thighs touch your torso. Feel the push off your hands. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees as much as you want. Feel free to shake your head, your shoulders, anything that feels good. Just notice if your forward fold feels a little bit different than it sometimes does, having already done so much with our hamstrings. Inhale for a halfway lift and put your hands on blocks, any height. You can also put it on a chair, but for now, try to avoid putting your hands on your legs. All right, so let's take the thigh bones back and pay attention to your spine here. Our legs are nice and open. Ground through your four corners of your feet, root, and then rise up, lift the arches like you have a strap across the arches, lift them up into the pelvis as you root the four corners down. Feel that zing all the way through your legs. Now, once you have that sense that you are here in your legs, let's pay attention to our low back. Where is it at? Do you have a sense? Are you rounded? Are you in a posterior tilt? Are you in a neutral spine? Are you in an anterior tilt? So just lean into that neutral spine as much as you can. Thigh bones back, spine grows longer. Exhale and melt. Bend your knees, relax a bit, and then push off your feet and rise up. Now, we've been down for the count for a while, so if you feel dizzy, just pause here for a moment. Feel free to engage your core, squeeze a little bit. You can even cross your thighs or hug to the midline with your thighs and your hands. Just get your blood pressure to come back. Take a deep breath in, arms coming up to the sky. Lean back, open the chest, and then relax your arms. Interlace your hands behind your back. Open the chest, bend your knees a lot, and let your shoulders loosen. Relax your skull, breathing well. Release your hands down onto the ground. Left foot forward, left foot back, right foot forward. Hands can stay on those blocks. All right, so feeling the openness of the hip flexors now. We've done this a lot to stretch the back of the legs. Let's stretch the front. Find your breath. All right, now let's start moving. So breathe as you go, straightening a bit, bending a bit. All right, and then find your lunge, ground yourself, rise up, crescent lunge, arms come to wherever feels best for your body. They can be straight overhead, they can be out a bit, anywhere that feels like you are really welcoming in the day. There's so much to open your heart to. Let your breath come in deeply. And then release your hands down to the ground. Back foot comes forward, fold again, step your other foot back. Left foot is now forward, right foot back, lunging. Before you start moving, enjoy the hip flexor stretch in the back leg. You can even put your knee down on the ground if that helps you to open up the hip flexors in your back leg. Deep breaths here. Enjoy slowing down and just sensing sensation. When you're ready, start to move a bit, bending your knee, straightening your knee. And then prepare for your lunge, your crescent lunge. Ground your feet, engage your legs. All those muscles we've loosened up by stretching. Now we're going to engage a little bit. So your front glutes, your hamstring. Open yourself up to the day, expand, breathing well. What can you lift your heart to? All right, release the hands down, back to dog pose. Extend through the spine, bend your knees as much as you need. Inhale, come forward into a plank. Hold some integrity in the center body. Find your breath in, find your breath out. Let's engage our hamstrings here a little bit, but a little inner thigh rolling up toward the sky. All right, and then put your knees down onto the ground if that's better for your shoulders. Roll your shoulders a few times while you're down here, and then enjoy your version of a Cobra Pose. Maybe your arms are wide, maybe they're close. You do you. Exhale, come down. Let's try twice more with breath. Rising up on inhale and lowering down on exhale. All right, come up. All fours, move your spine around. Do some circles, anything that feels very good for your body. And back to child's pose. Now notice everything's softened, so there's no stretching going on any longer with our hamstrings. See if you can melt, check in, notice if the stretching irritated your sit bones at all.
Sometimes we can overstretch, so we want to be very mindful when we're doing a practice like this where we're focusing a lot on stretching. All right, we're going to come up onto all fours, maybe back to dog pose. If you're skipping some dog poses, you can just come into a right foot forward short lunge. So let's all find our way there. We're going to come into some straight legs for a moment. Rise up, bringing the arms to the sky, straight legs. Exhale, hands down onto the blocks. All right, so square up the hips. Try not to lean all your weight down. We're light. Inner thighs rolling back. Root through the front big toe as you reach the hip back. Try not to let the leg turn out. Let it be neutral. All right, check in with your neutral spine. Make sure it's neutral. Make sure you're not rounded or way arched. And once you find that neutral spine, and if you can't find it, try stacking more height underneath your hands, okay? Once you find it, twist to the side for a revolved triangle pose. Shoulders away from the ears, finding the breath. Notice if you lose the big toe side of your foot, round into the big toe side of your foot, move the shoulders away from the ears. The spine is staying long. The core is what's twisting you. Exhale and release the hands down onto the ground. Back foot comes forward. Put a block between your thighs and come into a chair pose with a block between your thighs. Arms can be back, arms can be up. Just squeeze to the midline, get that sense of stability. So, when we twist through the pelvis through the spine, the pelvis, the SI joints can sometimes get a little wacky. And then lower your torso, keep in your squat, put your hands on the outside of the knees. Hug the block, but also push your knees into your hands. So we have two actions going on simultaneously. Stabilize your pelvis. And then rise back up, arms to the sky, straight legs. Exhale and release. Take the block away. Left foot is now forward, right foot is back. Okay. Come up to stand. You can take your legs a little wider if you need to. Finding the breath. All right, so let's have two arms up at first. Extend. Reach both hands down onto blocks. Now I have two blocks on the high height. If you need more height than that, put them on the inside edge of your foot, one on top of the other. Or you can use furniture. So try not to compromise the angles of your pelvis and low back for depth in this pose. You want to have a neutral low back. So check in, make sure you're not rounded and tucked. Feel the sit bones drop back and wide. Inner thighs rolling back. Okay, root through your front foot. When you're ready, you can, if you like to come up first, great. I do. That feels better for my body. To come back again into revolved triangle pose. If you'd rather just be there where you were and twist, that's good also. So find whichever way you like to get in to the posture and twist your triangle. Open your chest. Drop your shoulders away from the ears. Try not to bear all your weight down on that hand. Try to support, be self-supporting. Use your core, use your legs, ground into your feet. Stay with the inner foot to that front, the left foot, stay grounded in the big toe and the inner heel as you reach the hip back. Twist with breath, twist with core. Keep your neck out of the line of fire so you can stay soft. And then exhale and melt back down. Back foot comes forward again, fold. Okay, this time come onto your knees and stick the block between your thighs here. Okay, we're going to come onto all fours. Hug the block, and the block can be at the middle or narrow height, whatever feels good. Hug the block, okay, neutral spine. And then we're going to come into a plank with the block between our thighs. Inner thighs rolling up a teeny bit toward the sky. See if you can keep a neutral spine. Find your feet pulling away from each other as you stay connected with the block. Feel all that stabilization through the center of the body. Deep breaths. All right, and then come onto your all fours. Take the block out of there and come to lay down on your belly.
Either put your arms overhead, out to the side, or down at your sides, your choice. Take your legs wide apart, so toes touch outside edge of your mat. Take a deep breath and lift everything up. Focus on hugging your sacrum with your glutes, so be strong in your pelvis, breathing well. Feel your diaphragm move you, keep the neck long, pull your hand or your shoulder blades down the back a bit. And then exhale and melt to come to the ground. Come up onto all fours, swish, swish, swish. Breathing well. And sit back onto your heels if you can. You can always just come up onto your shins if it's too uncomfortable. And just have a breath here for a moment. Check in with your back. Are you doing too much? We're holding poses for a while, so just pay attention to be careful and protect yourself. Choose wisely in your postures. And then we're going to find our way up. So you can step up, you can come to dog pose and get up, however you want to get back up. We're going to turn sideways on our mat. Okay. Take your legs wide. We're going to turn the right foot out and we're going to come into triangle pose. So as you come into this posture, down is not necessarily better. Depth is not necessarily what you're looking for. You can find depth in the pose, but I have one block stacked underneath the other block right now, and this makes my spine feel amazing. Versus if I went lower, there's just a little bit more compression. And for today, I don't want compression, I want openness. So just see what you want today. That's what my body wants today. Maybe you want deep poses today. All right, so shoulders away from the ears, ground into your legs. Feel that you're open, that you're free, that your body has room. Breathe well. Now tip the pelvis just a little bit more to the right. Feel the root of the femur bone head up into the hip joint. Finding the breath. All right, bend your knee. Maybe your hands can stay on the blocks or block and stretch your arm overhead. Maybe you prefer putting your elbow on your knee, and that's better for your shoulders or your body. So whatever feels good to you, rounding into Parsvakonasana. Open the heart. Deep breaths. Does it feel good to bend your leg, engage your glutes, push your feet? Okay, and then let's rise up, and we're going to do the same two poses to the other side. Okay, let's turn your legs left. If you prefer having blocks, use blocks. You can always have your hand on your leg for triangle pose, especially if you're not going very deep. Sometimes just having your hand on your thigh can be a lovely way of being in this pose. So you do you. Find what's right for your body. Right, shoulders are away from your ears. Come into the breath. Open the chest. See what it feels like to have that length in the spine. Root the femur bone up into the hip joint. Externally rotate that femur bone in the hip joint. Ground your big toe so you're not rotating too much without a counterbalance. How's your neck? Can you relax the shoulders? Can you stay rooted in the back leg? Come on up. Bend your knee. Maybe your elbow goes on your knee. Maybe your hands come onto your blocks. So just find what's right for your body. Open the chest. Enjoy the posture. What's to enjoy here? Ground into your legs. Feel your strength. Root yourself. And then feel the space in your body as well. Relax your neck. So your neck does not have to do the pose for you. You have a whole lot of other muscles that can be in charge without the traps. The upper traps have to do all the work. Out of the posture, and let's find a wide legged stance. So if you have a piece of furniture, you can do this, with your legs wide and your hands holding on to furniture. If you want to do this with your hands on blocks. So, once again, depth is not the most important thing here. If you want to go all the way down, put your head on the ground, that's great too. So, but think less about depth. Always think less about depth, more about grounding, stability, and breath. Think more about space in the body. And when all those things, kind of coalesce and you go deep, then that feels really good because you're stable in your depth instead of feeling like you're out there hanging in the winds in a vulnerable place. So depth is the last of the forces that come. First, stability. First, breath. First, spaciousness. When you get those, depth can come. Switch directions just a little bit. Turn to dog pose. Turn to the long edge of your mat. Now, for this dog pose, think less about your hamstrings and more about your calves. So walk your hands a little closer to your feet and try just for right now to get your heels down. Bend your knees a little bit. So you have a muscle underneath your big calf muscle. That's called your gastrocnemius. Underneath the gastrocnemius, you have another muscle called your soleus. And this is what we're stretching here. When we drop our heels to the ground, bend your knees. Just notice your ankle mobility. Notice that deep stretch in your Achilles and in your calf. Find your breath. All right, and then come down and rest. Child's pose. Let everything soften. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to give you two choices here. I want to just go the opposite direction and stretch the front of your legs a little bit. So if you're very open and you have, you can bear weight on your knees well, then take your right foot forward and your left foot back. Find a twist again, and we're going to reach back. Here, I'll show from the side. We're going to reach back. So the right foot is forward, the left knee is back. You're going to reach with your right arm and grab your left foot and find a quad stretch. If you're like, that's just not happening in my body, then you're going to lie down on your side and grab onto the foot either with your hand or a strap and stretch your quad this way. So you choose what's best for your body. If it's difficult for you to weight bear on your knee, or if you have not very flexible quadriceps, this way that I'm doing is a better choice for you. So once again, depth is not the most important thing. Stability, when you're on your side, it's much easier to feel your back stay stable than when you're in the lunge. So whichever you're doing, pubic bone to navel, tailbone toward the knee, see if you can sense into that. If you're on your leg, if you're standing on your knee and your foot, bring your knee and your foot toward each other. Relax and melt out of there and come to the second side. So if you're up in the lunge, your left foot is forward, your right foot is behind you. You're going to put your right hand on a block or on the floor. You're going to reach back with your left hand and grab your right foot. Now, once you're here, try not to fall and splay. Hug your inner thighs to the midline, press through your front heel, hug your heel and your knee toward each other and open the chest. Try not to fall and sink into the lumbar spine. If you're on the ground, okay, on your side, and no matter what you're doing, you're breathing, grabbing onto the front of your foot, the tailbone towards the knee, the pubic bone toward the belly button, open across your chest. So just enjoy. Slow this down, breathe your way here. All right, let's come out of that pose. And we're going to come into pigeon pose. And if you need some good support with blankets or blocks, then by all means take support for this posture.
Lately, I've been putting a blanket both underneath my sit bone of my front leg and the thigh of my back leg. So, like a blanket folded like this, long ways. You might just need something under your sit bone. Maybe you don't need anything at all. Maybe you're flipping over onto your back and doing reverse pigeon pose. So, whatever is right for your body, we're going to have the right leg bent first. So, see if you can find your way into pigeon pose. Now, before you come down with your head, check in with your back leg. Is your heel in line with your hip, or is it out to the side? Try to keep it in line. Is your kneecap on the ground, or is it turned out? Try to have your neutral leg. You can curl your toes under, or you can lay your toes flat. Some people's knees like one way or the other. Then extend through your spine. Check in with your front leg. Can you root the femur bone into the hip? Can you widen the sit bones? Check in with your knee and your SI joint. Are all your joints in a safe place? And if all that comes together, then go ahead and lay your body toward the floor. So long spine. I like to rest my head on something. There's a deep ease that comes in your nervous system when you have support. So take as much support as you want with those blocks, or hands underneath you can put your hand underneath your forehead. That's another way of supporting yourself. Wide sit bones, neutral lumbar curve. If your knee is not happy, make a different choice. Pull your heel closer to your pubic bone, get higher on blankets, or flip over onto your back. Check in with your traps. Ease things out here. Nice and easy. Let's go ahead and find our way up. And then go ahead and swing that back leg around, or go up into dog pose, however your body transitions. So you can do whatever you want to come to the second side. Perhaps your second side, you were on your back and now you're going to do pigeon pose, or you did pigeon pose and now you're going to do reverse pigeon pose on your back. So whatever works for you. Okay. Adjust your legs before you go low. Find the posture. Okay, so feel into your legs. Is your back leg straight? Is your heel in line with your hip instead of your leg kind of coming out to the side? Is your kneecap straight down? Do you need to curl your toes under or lay them flat? Is your heel sickled or your foot sickled? See if you can keep your toes in line with your heel. Lengthen the spine. Check in with your front leg. How are your joints? How's your knee? How's your SI joint? How's your hip? How's your ankle? Do you need to change position to find better comfort? Wide sit bones, and then find your way down once you have that comfort. Your front foot, do you need to flex it? It really just depends on the angle of your foot, whether or not you point or flex your foot. So just sense, try both. Does one give more relief to your knee than the other? And then try not to wrestle yourself. See if you can get to a comfortable enough place where your body can melt, where there is ease to be had. We don't want to overdo pigeon pose. We don't want to pry open our sacroiliac joint like a can opener. This joint is supposed to be stable. So once again, stability and breath and space come before depth. Make sure you're feeling the heart of this sensation in the muscles around your hip and pelvis, not in the joint spaces. If the joints are talking to you louder than the muscles, make a different choice in your position. Melt into your neck and shoulders, the base of your skull, your eyes, your jaw. If you're face down, see if you can let the skin of your face kind of fall away from the bones. So you're ready to come out of this posture. Find your way however you like to. You can swing the back leg around. You can come into dog pose. Then the next pose, I'm going to give you a couple of choices. If you have some blankets and you'd like to do Halasana and perhaps shoulder stand, by all means, I'm not going to teach. I promised when I started teaching online that I would not teach inversions over a computer. There's too much involved and I can't see you. So I don't want you to be unsafe. So if shoulder stand is not a pose that you are very comfortable with, now is not the time to learn it. You want to learn it in person from a teacher. Okay. So you can do shoulder stand or you can do plow pose. So I'm going to fold 2 blankets, open fold. Now it's so nice that I have this couch right here behind my blankets because I'm going to be able to put my legs over onto that. Okay. So plow pose can look lots of different ways. Okay. I like to have my shoulders on the blanket. Sometimes I flip my mat to be on top of that, so I have a sticky mat underneath me. And you can do a couple of things. First of all, you don't have to do plow pose. You can just do happy baby pose or knees to your chest, or you can put your legs up a wall. If you're going to do plow pose and you're on blankets, you need to kind of, roll a little bit onto them and then get onto the tops of your shoulders. And like I said, I have this couch here, which is perfect because I can put my legs up on a couch. All right, so I have my toes curled under, so I'm lifting my femur bones up away from my shoulders. So that might be something to try, or you can rest your knees. And if you don't have a couch, you can rest your knees close to your forehead. You can put your feet on the floor, on a chair, and you can have them hanging in space. You want your neck to be in a nice, happy place. So your shoulders are on the blankets, your head is off. So you're not going into too deep of flexion, extending through your spine. So you can move your femur bones away from your shoulders. For those of you who have had class with me in person, do you remember how good it felt if I've ever put a strap under your thighs in this pose and kind of lifted your femur bones up? So just create whatever space you can. And whenever you're ready to be done, you can be done. So there's no rules that you have to do Halasana at all. It's a very deep pose. You can do anything that you want that's just going to stretch the full back line of the body. All right, once you are ready to be finished, come onto your back. If you happen to do shoulder stand or Halasana or a little bit of both, come into fish pose. So we're going to climb up onto you. Well, you could do a couple of things. Actually, let's just do this. Come into child's pose with your chin up. Okay, so there's just a little bit of a reversal in your thoracic spine, as well as in your cervical spine. You can even put your elbows on the floor or on blocks to have the curvature of your spine go the opposite direction. Okay, and then we'll come back onto our back, feet onto the ground. Now I kind of whizzed right through Halasana, because I know that not everybody's able to do it, but always remember, this is one of the beautiful things about doing your practice over a computer is you do not have to follow me. If you're like, oh, I want to stay here, or I want to go down this road now because that's where my body's taking me, then just put me on pause and go do that. Okay, so there's lots of ways to make this practice your own without feeling like, oh, I'm in a class or it's rude to disrupt or move away from what the teacher's doing. I have no attachment to what you do in your practice other than to keep yourself happy and safe. Let's come into a twist. Okay, scoot your hips over to the right, knees up, and drop them to the left. Breathe deeply and gently. See if you can let the breath out in a soft way. Melt your skull. Relax. Back up. Scoot your hips over to the other side.
Do a twist on the other side. Breathing well. And come on up. In my experience, after doing Halasana and moving into Shavasana, I like to have my knees up on something. So like a high bolster, or I'm going to put my legs up on a chair or on my couch. So sometimes laying flat after a full back body stretch is a little uncomfortable. And having your knees bent and supported can make it a little bit more gentle on your spine. So you do you. Maybe you like to be flat, maybe you like to have support. Any little tweaky, if you want to move, if you have something a little tweaky that you want to fix before laying down for Shavasana, once again, this is your practice. You want Shavasana to feel at ease. As you're ready, begin to rest. Close your eyes. Soften your breathing. Melt your skull. Soften all around your face. Find that sense of ease. Relax your pelvis. Let your breath come deep. Your legs are very heavy.
As you bring yourself into the breath again, have some deep gratitude for your practice, for the ways in which we learn about ourselves through our practice, the ways we care for ourselves and kind of fine-tune that self-care. And breathe life into movement, so allow some movement to start occurring in the body. It could be very simple. Maybe you're a big mover right out of the gate, whatever feels good. And eventually finding your side. Rolling over, pushing off your side, off your hands, and coming up to sit. Place your palms together at your heart and bow into your practice. Share this energy, give the gift of your energy to another person. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.